Why do I read?
I live in two worlds. One is a world of books.
For me, it's books, books, books.
The mind needs books like a sword needs a whetstone.
I guess people like to read about the things that they want most and experience least.
Books feed me.
Once upon a time.
I read it in a book once.
Is this a kissing book?
I don't care. I'm not ashamed of my book.
It's not right for a woman to read. Soon she starts getting ideas and thinking.
I checked this out weeks ago, forbidden like reading.
You have never interested me more.
I have many leather-bound books, and my apartment smells of rich mahogany.
Now, when you read, don't just consider what the author thinks. Consider what you think.
I love that book.
I hated that book.
How can you read this? There's no pictures.
Don't read this book.
Those books are good. This might be the best book I've ever read.
I'm gonna go read.
Go ahead, read.
Why do I read? I read because this world is modeled after me.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Merry Christmas.
New Year.
No, it's Merry Christmas. Well, I guess Happy New Year.
It's Happy New Year, bro. Right now, it's New Year's Eve right now.
We're talking to you from the past, so...
On this eve, it is December 18th, 2024. On Wednesday. What's the word for Wednesday?
It was like Ventus.
Ventus?
Because there's only like 4 days, like Monday, Tuesday, Ventus, Friday.
So there is no Wednesday.
There's no Wednesday.
Someday.
We'll hop right over it. But Happy New Year's Eve, I should say. That's what we really should say. Happy New Year's Eve.
Huzzah!
Huzzah! I hope everybody be safe. Drink responsibly. I actually probably should have thought to make like a hot chocolate or something like that, but
I always think that kind of stuff every episode and never do it. Like, oh, I'd love to have a cinnamon roll during Legends and Lattes, and then didn't do it. And then every single time I wanted to do the whiskey tablet for last episode and didn't do it.
I actually meant to stop by this gelato place that's right down the road from work and get like a little pint of gelato, and I didn't do it. Fail.
We never actually do it. We always overplan. We overplan everything, and that's why it's amazing that we're able to actually get anything done. Because we overplan everything.
We either overplan or don't plan enough.
Yes, it is New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve. It's almost 2025. Can you believe that?
No, I really can't.
Do you know what I remember?
What?
I remember what a pain in the ass it was when I had to start writing on my school papers 2000 instead of 1999.
Yes. Oh, we're that old.
That was 25 years ago.
Holy shit.
Quarter of a century.
It's like when you put it like that, it's so depressing. You're like, because it's like, it wasn't that long ago. It's like, it's been 25 years. You're like, shit.
Yes, it has. Are you sad to see 2024 go? Did you have a good year?
I had a year of ups and downs. I had some of my highest highs and some of my lowest lows. What about you?
It was all blur. It's just a blur of a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a good year. And just like every year, there's always good and bad sprinkled within.
Yes. This podcast is one of my high highs. This has been such a fun adventure to go on with you.
I know, it's been so fun.
I mean, I feel like if you could rewind back to kind of the beginning of the year, Because if you think about it, January, our first book club pick, The Thick and the Lean, was our January book for 2024 that you picked for our book
I
club.
know.
And here we
just
are.
happened to record it.
Who knew that a year later we would be here? Not me.
And 12, did we read 12? 12 books?
Yeah, we doubled up on a couple months because we didn't start until May. We're ending the year with 12 episodes. It's been amazing.
I can't believe that we did it.
I can't believe either. I can't believe that there are people who even listen to us and just so thank you all. I know,
we're so weird. We're so weird.
But thank you all for joining us and listening, and
thank you guys for being here.
Enjoying our weirdness.
And I guess we're ending the year with a really great book because I think this is my favorite one that we read this year. For me, it is.
Me too.
A Winter in New York by Josie Silver.
In New York.
Did you like it?
I loved it. Like, I honestly, I'm not typically a huge fan of, I mean, we've talked about this before, the contemporary romance. And I know you had said that you really loved Josie Silver, and now I can see why. But like when you sent it to me and I saw the cover, I was kind of like, one of these like cheesy, cringy, like romancy ones, you know, just because like the cartoon is like it's cute, but it's like kind of cartoony, and I was just like, oh, okay, well. But I was so pleasantly surprised how much I just adored it. I loved it so much.
It's so great. I loved it too.
It was like the breath of fresh air that I needed after a year of mostly disappointing new reads. I'm really happy to end with this one.
Chef's kiss.
I loved it so much.
I loved it as well. It did everything I needed it to do. I just felt I walked away from it feeling good, and I didn't feel bad at all about how much I loved it. Josie Silver. This is my third Josie Silver read, and I always have super high hopes that the book's going to be great, and every single one has been fabulous. I've also read The Two Lives of Lydia Bird, and that book helped me get through a really great loss in my life. It is amazing book. One Day in December, I read that last year. That book it's just a different kind of story. That's what I love about her books.
I can totally see why now, and I've put both of those really high on my TBR. They're bumped up there.
Sort of anticipating that you were going to be pulling out your New Yorker accent.
Oh, I can still do that if you want me to.
You have a pretty good one.
Thank you. Saw that Marissa Tomei I watched.
That Marissa Tomei.
Like you've seen My Cousin Vinny, right? Like you actually have watched it now?
I've never seen My Cousin Vinny. No.
Oh my god! I thought you said you watched it with Jared.
No, it's on our list.
Oh!
Yeah, I've also never seen When Harry Met Sally.
Oh, really? It's been a long time for me on that one, but I have seen it. There's this scene where Marissa, she's like this New Yorker, and they're like in this rural like town, and Joe Pesci is gonna go hunting to get information, and she goes, "You gonna go hunting?" And he's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "You gonna shoot a deer?" Oh my god! So she's like, "So you're just gonna go in there, and this little deer's gonna walk up to a little brook, put his little deer lips up to the water, and bam! A fucking bullet's gonna go through its head." No one asks ya. So so good. You have to watch it. It's so good. So good. So, before we get into it, we should do our spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. We're going to be talking about the entire book from front to back, any plot twists, any spoilers, any of the book's contents. We will be discussing everything book club style, front to back.
We also will be discussing anything triggering, anything that might possibly upset people. We're probably going to be talking about it if it's in there. We cuss on occasion. We don't really care about that.
Yep.
So that's what you're in for.
You're in for an unfiltered time. So if you haven't read it and you want to read it, pause it, go read it, come back. Or if you don't think you're going to get around to reading it, then you can just keep on listening and hear our take, and then you can walk away feeling like you have read it.
Haha.
Haha.
Are we diving into the snow?
We're diving into the snow. So for anyone who's not familiar with the book, the main character is Iris. She is from London and she has just moved to New York to escape a abusive relationship with a man named Adam. We don't know a ton about it yet, but we know that she's come to get away from that because she ended up in this relationship because she lost her mother to cancer. And her mom were extremely close, and they pretty much just, it was the two of them, no other family. So that loss hit her really hard, and she found herself in an abusive relationship. So she's moved to New York. She's a chef. She has a best friend named Bobby who owns the noodle shop that she works at. She's a chef there. And he's basically her gay best friend. And he and his husband, Robin, live next door. They both live in apartments above the noodle shop. Very quintessential New York vibes. And they go to this food festival, and she recognizes a shop door from a picture in her mom's photo album because her mom has a history in New York. She used to be a singer, used to be a band, and once upon a time she had gone to America to try to fulfill her music star dreams. She never knew where that place was and who the man in the picture was, but it turns out that it was her mother's love of her life that she walked away from to pursue her music career, and she never knew. And she just happened to come across this shop, and it's a gelato shop owned by an Italian family, and they are known for their gelato recipe. There's a vanilla gelato recipe that has been passed down from generation of Bilotti family members, and only 2 family members can ever know the recipe at a time, and that's only because in case one person dies. So fast forward to now, she goes back to this gelato place because she's realized her mom's history there, and turns out they're not able to make any gelato because the one person in the family who had the recipe left is in a coma and had a stroke and doesn't remember it. So they're just like SOL. And when she tastes it, she realizes that this is the exact same gelato that her mother has always made her entire life. And she realizes now that Santo Bilotti, the man who fell in love with her mother, gave her mom this family secret gelato recipe. So she's like the only person who can now come in and save the day. But she can't come out and say that because then that would be betraying her mother's trust, because she said no one could ever know. And then that would also be outing Santo for divulging the family secret to a total stranger he just met. And also he was dating who would become his wife at the time, so it was a little bit of a gray area there. So she basically decides to help them, quote, recreate the gelato recipe and give it to them incrementally so that she can help them. But it gets more complicated than that because Santo's son, Gio, is a hot snack, and they start to develop feelings for one another.
He is a hot snack. Yes.
So that's kind of the general plot line.
Right? And we start out at the very beginning of her journey, right after she has moved to New York City. She's gotten a job as a chef in a noodle house. Her bosses, the people that run the noodle house, own the apartments upstairs, and she rents out one of them, and that's where we begin our story.
Where to start? I have so many notes. And for once, I am just so thrilled to have so many notes that isn't me complaining about the book. Because usually it's like a rant fest in my notes, and this time it's like, oh my gosh, I loved this and I loved that and I loved this.
I know, and I'm so excited that we both loved it. This really, honestly, I think that this is my favorite book out of all the books we've read this year.
Oh, hands
Which
down,
is
me too.
so
Hands
ironic
down.
that we're ending with such a wonderful story instead of
I know.
hacking it to pieces.
I
And
know.
so excited that it's my girl, Josie Silver, my
Yes.
girl.
Representing. One of the things that I just, my heart, I just loved was the found family aspect throughout the whole book. Not only just when she gets involved with the Bellotti family, but even just like with Bobby and Robin, you know, just that.
I really enjoyed their relationship.
I did too. So much.
Between Iris and Bobby. And Bobby and Robin are the name of her friends that own the noodle house. They all work together as well. Every night of the week except Monday. She works all night, every night, 6 days a week at this noodle shop.
Yeah.
Remember? Because she said that that's why when her and Gio start going on dates, they do Monday nights because she's working.
Mm-hmm. Monday nights, and he works all day, every day at the gelateria. You know, one thing that I really loved was that this book manages to be a rom-com where the romance isn't even the central point of the book.
Yeah.
Like, it's more about, like, Iris's journey at the center of it, and her and Gio's romance is, like, the secondary story that's a bonus.
It feels like a walkabout. Like you're on a walkabout, which a walkabout is an Australian word for it's like a spiritual journey to find yourself.
Yeah, like a healing process, yeah.
So that like you're on this process with Iris, and it's really about that more than it is about her relationship. It's about all the things in her life and how she is moving forward and trying to carve out a place for herself in a new life.
And not only just from the abusive relationship, but at the core of even that was losing her mother. Was just such a traumatizing thing, and because her mother always stayed a musician, they just moved around all the time, so they lived a very nomadic lifestyle, so they didn't have any other family members or close friends or ties. So when she lost her mom, that was like her whole world, and that's why she ended up in the relationship that she did.
Reference quote for Walkabout and Finding Yourself, page 16. And this is just an example of her beautiful writing. Being around all this creativity and culinary joy reminds me of what drew me to kitchens in the first place. The heat, the urgency, the deep satisfaction. I miss it all viscerally, another piece of me temporarily lost because of Adam Bronson. There are lots of those pieces, my career, my self-worth, my confidence, the things that made me feel like me. I imagine them all lined up on the shelf of an emotional loss property office, waiting for me to reclaim them. I will. Slowly, but I am.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love that.
And also, you got to kind of put yourself in Iris's mind, too, when she's starting this journey. Her whole life, as they've been living this, like you said, nomadic lifestyle of traveling in music, it's just been the two of them. It's just been Iris and her mom, Vivian. You know, she got pregnant with her when she was in a band with one of the band members, Charlie Raven. He wanted her to get an abortion. Vivian refused to get an abortion and said, no, I want to keep my baby. And then she left the band and the music lifestyle to raise her, and she raised her up till this point, and then she passed away. So she's never really had anybody other than her mom. There's been no family, there's no other support. She's got to find those things for herself. And then in turn, when her mother passed away, she moved in with a guy right away who ended up being very verbally, mentally abusive. She had to get away from that, and that's why she comes to New York City. She's like, I got to get out of here, like completely out of here, and just start over, start fresh. And I'm going to go to this place that I always dreamed about with my mom, and I'm going to start fresh.
Because it always meant a lot to her mom.
And that's also a beautiful sentiment as well.
Because she also is going to New York in a way to feel closer to her mom too, just because she spoke of those times so fondly. And she knew a little of Santo only in the fact that her mom basically said that he was the love of her life and she lost her chance. And that was like the extent of Iris's backstory on that.
I love that she showed the comfort that comes from finding people that become like family to you.
Yes.
Out of their kindness, and they're just wanting to be there for you, and then you just start being there for each other, and how you can enjoy that, but that it's just a part of your life. It doesn't, just because you have a found family member doesn't mean that person has to be every second of your life. They can be your family and not have to be there every second. And you can just be there for each other in whatever capacity that you're capable of being there for each other, and that's enough. And that those interactions and those people that you have those small moments with are very important to your mental health.
Oh, huge. And just that feeling, that sense of belonging somewhere. And so she kind of goes from feeling so untethered in the world to just feeling like she has roots and has people around her to love her and support her. And I also love that she and Gio also have kind of a slow burn thing. And so it's like the pacing of the book is great because you have kind of the rom-com timeline where we're moving it along because it's a single book story, but her and Gio's love connection, it's a slow burn for them. Like, it doesn't take that long for us to see it, but at the time where it kind of starts to heat up, this is several weeks of them spending so much time together. So it just feels so much more natural and organic the way that they've just gotten to know each other over many weeks of time, just spending all this time together trying to come up with the gelato recipe. Like, that's the cover of her being there.
Also, I felt like we got all of the important conversations because you have a lot of time jumping here.
Yes.
They're moving forward weeks at a time. I believe it takes place over many months of time, actually.
Yeah,
throughout the book.
because I think it's like September-ish that she meets him, and then it takes us through the rest of the year until after Christmas.
And you never feel displaced from the movement of time.
No, so it paces it really well, and like you say, you're getting a sense of their growing relationship even with the time jumps because the important conversations in the dialogue is actually there. And it's so well written that it reminds me of like when rom-coms used to actually be good.
Right? Yeah.
Like,
it's
just
been
like
a while.
like because there's heart in the writing, like it's not just like a paint by numbers thing. Like, it has all of the hallmarks and tropes that you see all the time, but it just works because the writing is there and you care about the characters and they're relatable, and it's not surface level. You know, like there's a lot of heart in it. So it doesn't even matter that it's the most tropey thing ever. It's like I'm here for every single one of these because it's doing it so well.
And also I loved those little touches. I loved that Iris dreamed of going to New York and being in New York from all of her mother's stories that she told her about New York City. You know, when she was still alive and when she was growing up. and that they watched old New York movies together, like Sleepless in Seattle and When Harry Met Sally, and because a lot of us grew up watching those movies. And she makes a lot of references in this book to pulp culture and to like rom-coms and those kinds of old nostalgic movies and shows that we've all seen a million times, but also it added a layer of warmth to the story.
Yeah.
But it wasn't cringy. It was so well done.
Yes, I literally said the exact same thing to my mom. I'm like, usually pop culture references can seem really ham-fisted and just so out of place, and every single one of them just worked.
Yes, and I found it relatable.
Yes.
But not overkill.
Yes.
With it. And I've got to say that is such a hard balance to strike.
It really is, and this is why I usually don't enjoy contemporary romance for all of these reasons we're talking about.
Yes.
Because it just falls so flat and just gets really cringy. And
I also loved that she was British in New York City.
Yes.
That was kind of a cool take on it. Josie Silver is from the UK. And I loved that she was from the UK, but she was still able to capture the magic of a big city like New York City.
Yes.
And she's not from here, but she's still able to write about it in a way that is relatable to us as Americans.
Yes.
And a way that also shows people from other places the magic of New York City. And I love that she was able to pull that off so that other people who have never been here or might never even come here can read about things that we are nostalgic about, and that they might be nostalgic about from old films they've seen about New York. It's just so beautifully written.
It really is. Like, it tonally, the pacing, I feel like even if you've never been in that type of relationship or whatever, there's just something relatable about Iris. And it also helped. I really enjoyed a protagonist like being like close to our own age too, because like so many romances too are like it's their first big love, and
Isn't she 30? She's 37 and he's 39.
Yeah.
That's their ages. Iris is 37 and Giovanni Bellotti is 39.
So it's just so refreshing to read a character that is more relatable to like our age, just because like Iris has the life experience of someone older than 20, you know?
The guy she's meeting, Giovanni, he's been through shit too. He lost his wife, and there's a whole little subplot there that we'll get into here in a second. But he has a daughter named Bella who's 15 that he had with his wife, and she died when Bella.
She was like 8 or 9 when
young
when Penny, his wife, died. Yeah. And she's 15 now, so it's been 7 years since his wife's death, and he has not been with anyone since her. He has not had any relationships.
He just dove headfirst into work. You know, he chose to spend time with his daughter and work. That just kind of became his rhythm in his life. And then here comes Iris just coming in to shake things up. But really, she's not, because she just kind of, and that's the beauty of this book, she just kind of feels at home there, and she fits, and she just starts being in the routine that they are all already in.
Yeah.
You know, she just starts slowly becoming a part of the routine, and it's just like breathing.
Yeah.
For all of them.
And then it feels so much more natural and organic the way that all of those feelings and relationships develop, because when she goes there to help with the recipe, her plan is to get in and get out and just basically stay long enough to like for them to feasibly come upon the recipe
through experimenting with batches of gelato.
Yeah, there's that extra layer of complication too when we have Geo and Iris's meet cute. It's in a bookstore.
And this is like right when she moves to New York.
Yeah.
She hasn't been here very long, and she has no idea who he is, and he doesn't know who she is. They just both go into a bookstore, and there's only one copy of the book that they both want, and he's already got it like in his hands when she reaches for it, basically.
Yeah, and she's devastated because she's like, this was the one thing I needed. It was like, it'd be like if ACOTAR 6 was on the shelf and someone else grabbed the last one. Like, I cannot tell you how much my mental health needs this book right now. So she tries like talking him into another book, and he's like, no.
And it's Valentine's Day too, and she's all sad.
And she
Yeah.
kind of has like a little bit of a breakdown and just like, well, you're gonna, because she sees that he's got a ring on. She's like, well, you and your wife are gonna go do all these romantic things, and this was the only thing that I wanted for Valentine's Day was this freaking book. And then he's like, well, I'm sure your husband, blah blah. And she was like, well, my husband's dead. And even though it was a lie, because she was not married to Adam, and he isn't dead, but like for her in her mind, mentally coping wise, she's just like pretending that he's dead. So it's just like one of those like super innocuous white lies that you tell a stranger that wouldn't normally mean anything. But then he goes on to say that his wife is also dead, and then she's like, oh fuck, like shit. Well,
none of that comes out though until later when she meets him at the gelato shop.
And it's like 7 or 8 months later at that point.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I think, how are you kind of familiar? And then he was like, oh, you're the bookstore girl. And then she's like, double fuck. Like secrets. And now I can't, now that I've gotten to know him, like I can't, if I tell him that I lied about that, though I felt like that was not a big deal. And I felt like she should have just come clean about it right away. The whole Adam being dead.
Well, I think too
that's
that
what I would have done.
she didn't want to come off as a complete asshole, first of all. And that's super embarrassing.
Yeah.
Like to know that you did that to an actual widow or widower.
But it's like, how could you have known?
And then also she wasn't planning on being there and getting integrated into his life, their life.
That's very true.
It just kind of happened. And then after a while, it was like, oh shit, well, now what do I do? Now it's been a really long time and I haven't told him, and we're starting to get romantic and stuff. Now what? It was like the lies kept stacking up, and they weren't all necessary lies. My first thought, Tiffany, what I was thinking was, oh my gosh, and this is the question I wrote specifically for you. Was this too miscommunication trope for you?
I was just about to address that. Normally, I hate the miscommunication trope with the power of 1,000 suns. Okay. The reason why for me, and I understand other people having problems with it, and a lot of people did on the 1 stars that I gathered. But for me, miscommunication is different than just withholding, because it's not like she's miscommunicating with Gio. Like you said, she's told pretty specific lies, but also those lies are not vain or to hurt him or to be deceptive or manipulative. They're to protect people that she loves. Like she's like, well, I can never tell them that my mom, some random girl, has had your secret family recipe that only 2 people ever know at one time, and I always promised her that I would never tell anyone. So she feels that loyalty to her mom.
Right.
And in turn, once she gets to know the Bilotis, because she almost kind of comes close to caving, but then learning about them and how big loyalty is to them, she's like, I do not want to ruin any of these guys' relationships with their family members by outing Santo, by like basically having an affair with her mom.
Yeah.
And giving away the family recipe. So she's also trying to protect
his wife. They were dating when they met, right?
Yeah, and it was early days. Like it had only been a few weeks, but like he was with Maria at that point and was like seeing a future with her, and he just kind of,
and he would have left it all at that time for Vivian.
And he wanted her to. He asked her to stay for him, and she was like, I have to know, I have to try this music career thing. And so she's also lying to protect them. and his reputation and his standing with his family and his marriage. And so again, it's like what like you said, it's one of those things where it's the lies start stacking. But in the beginning, when that happens, they're strangers and you think that nothing is ever going to come to anything. So there's no point in hurting anybody. But then when things start to change, then it's like, oh shit, now it's like it's gone too far. How do I navigate this now?
Right, yeah.
Because you're in too deep when it was never supposed to be anything more than even like her lying about Adam being dead. It was just like a random thing that you say to a stranger, kind of like when a guy hits on you and you say, I already have a boyfriend or I'm engaged, even though it's like a lie. But you're like, I'll never see this person again, so it doesn't matter.
The gelato itself, the recipe that Santo gave her mother, Vivian, for the vanilla gelato, it became instrumental in their relationship between Vivian and Iris. Vivian taught her how to make it. Vivian made this ice cream, this gelato for her entire life. It was just something that became a feeling of home to the two of them. And when she was sick with cancer, Iris made it for her and fed it to her. And then she runs into the place where all of this originated from, where this recipe came from. And she's meeting this family that her mother knew that gave them the recipe. And she realizes, oh my gosh, their business is going to go under because that's like their signature gelato that they sell is just vanilla.
And like that's their thing.
Yeah, that's their thing. And they have all these bookings and they're not going to be able to give it to their customers. And slowly things will go downhill from there because that's what they're known for. And people always want to go back and they will recognize if the recipe has changed.
Yeah. And the only other people, because we mentioned there's two family members who can have it. The only other family member to have it is Santo's brother, Felipe, who is Gio's father, his real father. But Felipe, and here's like where all the connections fall into place. Felipe was also in the band with Iris's mom, Vivian. And he chose to leave Gio behind to go also pursue his rock star dreams. So Santo ended up raising Gio as his own. And Felipe, because he's always off jet setting or whatever, he doesn't remember the recipe or remember where he has it written down.
Page 60. The Bellotti family story has been invisibly connected with ours for as long as I can remember. The guy in the photo was the stuff of fairy tales when I was a child. The man who looked like a film star and made gelato for my mother. Theirs wasn't a sad, unrequited love story. Forever just wasn't written in their stars. She said they were too young, her dreams with the band too big to be derailed by love. To me, she was a pioneer, brave enough to let ambition take the driving seat, strong enough to follow her dreams rather than her heart. And I have a quote for the gelato, the vanilla gelato that we were talking about. On page 69. And this is Gio. Gio's talking about the vanilla recipe for gelato. What makes it special, he half holds a smile with a faraway look gathering in his eyes. So many things make it special. The taste, of course, but it's more than that. It's the connection between the memories, the way taste can trigger emotion.
Yes.
And he says that's what people feel when they eat their ice cream. It takes them back to a different time and place in their life.
Yeah.
Because people in the neighborhood, people in New York City have grown up eating their gelato and they have all these memories of eating it. And the flavor brings them back to those memories. And that's so true about memory.
It really is. It really
How a
is.
smell or a taste can just take you to another place.
Yes. This book hit me in my feels so early too in the book. Like page 27, it was only chapter 2 and it already had me crying.
You cried?
I did. Well, yes. Page 27 just hit me in my feels. She's talking about her mom, once she gets diagnosed with cancer or anything. It's on page 27. For a while after she died, I just couldn't wrap my head around the idea of a world without her in it. I still can't, not fully. My mother was always brimming full of bright, wonderful life, a human rainbow. Watching cancer systematically strip her of her colors was profoundly difficult, a dimmer switch turning in the wrong direction, no matter what the doctors did to try to slow it down. It's just so sad. And I think that it just hit me. It feels just because I've like watched my mom go through something similar. It wasn't cancer, but it was a crazy, mysterious illness that took years for her to recover from, and we didn't know if she ever would. So it just really brought me back to those really dark moments of wondering, like, will my mom ever get better? Like, you know what I mean? Like, in watching,
Yeah.
because my mom is like that same. She's so full of life and energy and bubbly, and to watch her just be not
Yeah,
that was,
anyone who's sick in general or bedridden, who's ill, like watching them get sicker and sicker, and that kind of fear and anxiety about their health, and when there's really nothing you can do, it's
yeah.
very painful.
It's really hard to watch. So my mom is fine now, everyone, by the way. But that was a really hard time, and it really took me back.
Yeah, that and if anyone wants to know, that mysterious illness ended up being mercury poisoning.
Mercury poisoning, who knew?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just sheer luck that we kind of figured it out and then started the road of, but that's a whole other story. But
That was,
it's very scary.
yeah, I mean, that was
Yeah, and that, like,
a rough time for you. And you were so young.
yeah. So like I read that, I just like had to close the book for a second and like, oh, it's so close. It's too close. Too close. But I could just like really relate to that. And and let me read a little bit further, because there was also a really pretty thing, and I know it reminded me of my mom too. She says later on, at the exact moment she died, the large woven dream catcher hanging above her old cast iron bedstead slowly began to twirl. She might have said it caught on a wind from a cracked open window, but I am my mother's daughter, and I prefer to think that she blew on it just for me, to let me know that she was safely on her way and that it was time for me to be on mine too. I'm tearing up right now. So beautiful.
Intermission. Thank you, Josie. About how her mother was her only person.
Yeah.
On page 138. And she's talking about how she's happy for Giovanni, or she calls him Gio. They say Gio in the book. She's happy for Gio that when he lost his wife, that he had a family all around him to like shield him and help him through that. On page 138. I'm glad he had the love of his family around him at the worst time of his life. My life has been so very different from his. My mother was my only person. I felt like a fragile dandelion when I lost her, as if all the pieces of me had been caught up on a cold wind and blown in every direction. Adam snatched those fragments from the air and shoved them in his pockets, crushing them in his palms, making them small.
Oh, the writing is she's so good at capturing those feelings and putting them into words. She really is. And another thing I thought was that the dialogue too was also very natural and organic sounding and not cringy. Or like when it was in a way that's like like realistic cringy, like when people are like trying to flirt or get to know each other like for the first time.
I typically really dislike a book that has a ton of characters in it, and there's a lot of characters in this book. You know, you've got Giovanni, his daughter, Iris, Bobby, Robin. You have the character of Adam Bronson. You kind of have the character of Vivian. You've also got Giovanni's entire family. He's got 4 sisters, but his sister Sophia's around a lot. His mother, is a character in this book. His biological father is a character in this book. Like, it's just,
There's a lot.
There's a lot of characters that keep getting introduced.
It's like My Big Fat Greek Wedding, but with Italians. There's just like a lot.
Yes.
But in a good way, and it balances.
The thing about all those characters, though, is I found that I really was enjoying all of those conversations that she was having with all of these characters. And I typically don't really get attached to characters very quickly. But it was the dialogue is so natural that you enjoy reading it.
Exactly. And then like when they're kind of flirty, like when it's, I have a reference quote for this. It's page 268. When Gio, like they're together at this point, and Gio takes Iris on a very romantic date to like all these like quintessential things. Like they end up at Coney Island, and then they start getting hot and heavy in the car. At page 268, he gets his hands up her shirt, and she goes, "Your hands are cold," I whisper. And he says, "Your body's hot," he says. And then pauses, frowns, and adds, "temperature-wise. I mean, not..." I raise my eyebrows, enjoying the way he's tying himself in knots. "You don't think my body's hot?" "No, I mean, God, yes, I do." So it's just like, but like everybody has had that moment where you're just like awkward on
Word
accident.
vomit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's like,
go
so like
ahead.
even those like cringy moments, you're like, "Ooh, ouch, Gio," but it's like realistic though, and it's relatable, not just like, "Oh, who wrote this?" Yeah.
Right, so you enjoy watching their interactions because it feels
It's just
real.
so
It feels like
real.
you're
Yes.
there.
It's so realistic.
And I'm always so shocked because I feel like I've been so desensitized sometimes sexually in books because it's so hardcore in some of the books that we have read.
Yeah.
Like just overly sexual, like he's pounding her and it's being described in great detail.
Yeah.
Like every aspect of it. But it's so refreshing to be able to read a romance like this where the sex is not very, very extremely spicy, but you can still get those feelings of the romance. Like
Yes,
it
'cause
still makes you feel warm when you're reading it.
Yes, because it manages to be spicy, but not overtly spicy, but spicy enough to where you're like, "Oh, hello." But also, it's still just so very sweet and romantic
The
and just
romantic part of it, though,
mm.
like how romantic they are together and how their relationship is developing, you start to feel those like warm feelings
Yes.
and you don't have to have all of that sex and spice to have a good book.
It's so true, and don't get me wrong, I love some good, next level spice, but it just is the perfect tone for the book, and I do remember
It doesn't
thinking
rely on it at all, though.
exactly, but also that is also not what their relationship is based off of. Like, they gradually become, I mean, they
Yes.
always were attracted to each other, but at the end of the day, like, what grew first was their, emotional feelings towards one another and just genuinely liking each other, and then acting on that later. So you have that, again, that slow burn, and I worried at the beginning, I was like, "I am loving this so much, I really, really hope that it's not like a closed door scenario later." Like, it doesn't have to get crazy off the charts, but, like, I don't want it to be like a fade out. I want a little bit, I wanna be there for it, and you are.
Yeah. But you can still have like a great romance without all of that sex.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like it's just
Oh,
like a
totally.
real rom-com, you get just a little snippet, but not so much that it just is like, well, I got to watch this so I can see Jennifer Lawrence's tits.
Right.
You know
Well,
what I mean? Like
yes, that's exactly what I meant earlier when I said, like, rom-coms, like, used to have the heart in it, and you actually cared about the
Mhm.
characters, and it felt real, them falling in love, and now it's just like, 2 hot people, bang it out. The end.
And since we're talking about rom-coms, I think we should just go ahead and read the list at the end of the book, because there's a list of
Oh,
rom-coms.
yeah, there is. Yeah.
And the name of the list, this is at the very end after the book, Josie Silver's list of a very New York must-watch rom-com list. All right. For those who like their rom-coms a little more vintage, we've got some oldies but goodies. Barefoot in the Dark, That Touch of Mink, Sabrina, An Affair to Remember, and Breakfast at Tiffany's. For the strongest Iris and Vivian vibes, we've got their favorite rom-coms, When Harry Met Sally, Moonstruck, Working Girl, Sleepless in Seattle, You've Got Mail, and Splash. And for those who love how the rom-com tradition has carried on, Made in Manhattan, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, Serendipity, 2 Weeks Notice, and Kate and Leopold.
I feel like Kate and Leopold is one of the most underrated rom-coms.
Yeah, I love some of these. I love You've Got Mail.
Loved it.
Yes, I love Splash. I love that movie. How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days is
classic.
instrumental in our childhood.
Our love fern.
You let it die.
Are you gonna let us die?
Oh, no,
so
no. Matthew McConaughey is so awesome in that movie.
So good.
I love him in that.
I like that. Like, oh, you are already falling in love with me. I'm gonna make you wish you were dead. Poor guy.
Trust yourselves.
Trust yourselves. We brought that one back last episode, I think. 2 episodes ago in Legends and Lattes.
And we're hitting it again.
Hitting it again. Keeping that close.
Hit me. I loved the Italian aspect.
Yes, so fun.
It was so fun, and I loved every second of it.
It was so wholesome and just like that big family energy and it also realistically shows you them butting heads with each other sometimes, but at the end of the day, they're just tight-knit, would do anything for each other. It was such a great, and again, like you said, there's a big cast of characters, but you don't feel overwhelmed by it at any point. It just feels the balance that she strikes in the writing with it is just so great.
I have a description of Bilatti's, which is the gelato. What's it called? Gelateria that they own, which is very old school. They have a beautiful stained glass door in the front that has been there since they've opened. It just has a very old-fashioned feel to it on the inside. Page 33. Bilatti's feels like the kind of place a time slip could occur in a movie, a secret door to years and people past. How dearly I wish that could be true, that I could open that painted door and see if my mother sat in this exact same seat. I placed my hand on the low back of the chair beside mine, the smooth grain of the polished red leather subtle beneath my fingers. There's an inexplicable feeling of safety in here, a sense of timelessness and peace.
Warm fuzzies.
And you just imagine like this old kind of diner feeling, like old Italian red leather seats with like the sunshine hitting it and the dust particles. And it just feels like a place you want to be. You want to be at Bilatti's.
I want to become a Bilotti. Marry me, Gio. When I was reading it the whole book, I was just like, why does that never happen to me?
Because it's a book. It's not real.
Perpetually single over here.
I'm so excited. I like literally almost screamed when I realized that we were gonna get chapters with Vivian. That was such a
Yes.
great
I
added.
loved that.
And that also, like, some of the things that you learn in those chapters of Vivian, because the chapters with Vivian go back to when she was young and she met Santo. So you actually get to see some of her relationship with Santo that started all of this stuff. But some of the things that you're learning, they're just from Vivian's mind back then. And they're things that even Iris doesn't know. Some of
Yes,
them.
that was actually my next note. Like, we are so same brain right now.
Yeah, same
My
brain.
next note that I have is that I loved the layers because it wasn't just her and Gio's story, but also her mom and Santo, and the way that the connections are there. And because of Vivian's POVs, the couple times that we get them, I like that even though none of the other characters will ever know, like Iris or Gio or Santo or Maria, we the reader get to see that Vivian actually did go back for Santo. When Iris was like 4 years old, she'd had her time and she's like, "You know what? I'm ready. I'm going to go back." But when she goes, he's with Maria already. Gio is there, and the fact that we got to see Gio and Iris actually meeting as children.
And they don't even know, and
And
they'll
they
never
don't know
know.
that, and they'll never know, but we get to know that, and it's just that extra layer of, like, us being let in on something else. And it was so beautiful. I loved that touch.
It makes you feel like you're special, and that also, you can have those moments like that in your books, and not everybody has to know everything.
Yes, and then it just for the book as a whole, in a weird way, we get to see that her and Gio have always known each other and been in their lives in a weird way, and the way that it comes full circle in the end is just so sweet. And I love, like you said, like, not everybody has to know, but we get to be in on it, so it feels like that. Love it.
Okay, I have a serious question.
Okay.
Because something that went through my mind a few times, and I was like, wait, this can't be right. But there was a couple moments where I thought, are they siblings, maybe?
Oh. Well,
because Gio's dad was in the same band with Vivian and Charlie
Raven.
They were all in the same band together when she got pregnant. And I've just had so much of, like, plot switching lately in all these books we've been reading, where it's like, just like at the last second, they're like, haha, but this is awful. And this character is being sexually abused. And I was like, please don't switch it up and make them siblings. That was like me in my brain.
Well, I like how she actually kind of diffused that super early, because Bobby, Iris's gay best friend, he mentions that, like, "You don't think he could be your dad, do you?" And she's like, "No, absolutely not." Because
but still, I was just bracing myself for, like, a big shock like that.
Because
just in case.
Unless it happened off page and she didn't mention it, there's nothing on page to indicate that her and Santo actually slept together. Like, that they, like, had some dates and they, like, made out in the theater, but it doesn't it's unclear on whether they actually, like, slept together.
I'm not talking about Santo. I'm talking about the guy,
Philippe.
his dad, Philippe.
Right, but
Felipe
and Santo are brothers, so either way, they'd be related. So
yes, but I mean, one's more removed than the other, though. You would be cousins, not brother and sister.
Right.
Why do you look confused about this?
But Felipe never had sex with Vivian. So.
Right, but, like, at the beginning, I was just bracing.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, God.
Oh, no.
That's just like that's where my mind immediately goes to the worst case scenario. Isn't that nice?
Yeah. Well, we've gotten burned lately, so
I feel like we've been through some worst case scenario trauma over the
yeah,
last year with our books we've been reading. But
seriously.
between The Teacher and Murder on the Christmas Express, which we just finished,
Woof.
woof. My dad was like, I'm really glad I skipped that one.
Yeah, no kidding.
I was like, yeah, you are. You should be.
Oh, or how about when the first time that Iris goes to their house, like she's invited over for like a family Halloween dinner, and they pull out some photo albums, and Iris's mom is in one of the pictures, but her back is turned, but Iris knows who it is, and she recognizes that Felipe is Gio's dad.
Yeah. She has like a panic moment. She ends up leaving.
She didn't realize how closely even that they were connected, and that Gio's father was in the band with her mother. So like the connections just also keep piling up.
Yeah. And it says that she is the spitting image of her mother. And so at
Yeah.
this point, Santo hasn't seen her yet, and neither has Gio's dad. But once they do, I mean, he's
Obvious
got
right off the
now. Santo has some memory loss, so there's some confusion there as to if he would recognize her to look like her mom. But everybody's kind of nervous about that because of his stroke.
right.
Or at least because Felipe, Gio's father, comes randomly and just shows up, and he's like, okay, we need to have a talk because you're obviously Vivian's daughter. You are the spitting image of her.
Right. Like there's
And
no
he's like,
way.
yeah, and he's like, you have to tell Gio, and we need to keep you away from Santo because this might not be good for his health.
And you know what I really, really loved, now that you've set me up for the perfect segue again? You're such a good co-host. I
You're
really
it.
loved that when Felipe did show up, I was really fully expecting kind of this cliched like villain type character, because that's what I was expecting, for him to kind of be the asshole to show up and muck up the works and try to like maybe blackmail her or get like really shitty, because that happens a lot in these types
Yeah.
of thing. But the opposite happened. Like I thought he was like going to come in and stir shit up and be an asshole about it, but he was actually really sweet, and the way that he confronted her separately and privately to talk about that, and then
He
late,
cared that her mother had passed away and was
yeah.
sensitive towards that. Yeah.
And once she explained that she wasn't trying to manipulate anyone, and it just, the whole situation really happened organically, he was really understanding. And then later, when he came to her and like brought her to his storage unit with all the mementos from the band days with her mom, and he had film strips of her. Oh my god, I was also sobbing during that scene.
Yeah, it was very
um
heartwarming that he didn't, and also the family didn't hate him, even though he kind of abandoned Gio.
mhm.
It's like they chose to basically adopt him, and everybody was okay with that, and that he was their son.
Yeah.
And no one was angry with his dad, Felipe, for that. I mean, I'm sure that there is some like tension there between Gio and Felipe, and they kind of go into a little detail about like his nerves when he shows up like that, how it
Yeah.
like makes him feel displaced
Yeah.
because he just pops up out of nowhere, and it's like, to have your parent just who was never really there for you just pop up out of the blue. I mean, there's definitely some feelings that probably run there, but
Yes.
as a whole, they still treat each other like family, and they're not angry with each other.
Yeah, and they didn't like disown him or shun him. It's like, well, he's still
They've
part
all
of the
kind of
family,
made
and
their
he's gonna
peace
kind
with
of,
it.
yeah, yep.
It's almost like when Santo and Maria took him in, that they said, we're accepting this responsibility. This is our son now.
Yep.
And we're not going to be angry about it or hateful about it. There was this
Mhm.
piece to it that is probably a lot more true to what happens in families sometimes. Like, families get complicated, you know,
Yes.
they're dysfunctional, and that you can
Yeah.
still have a dysfunctional family but still love each other.
Yes, especially when you can put aside hurts and just like love each other and just accept people for who they are.
Be like, yeah, well, I guess we've got some baggage here, but we're not going to let it get in the way of our relationship with each other.
Yes. Well, and speaking from experience, sometimes with family, there are some relationships you want to be a certain way, and then accepting what they can give you because that's all they're capable of is also a beautiful thing, even if it's not
Yes.
the thing that you want. Like, just like with Gio and his dad, like, obviously Felipe is his dad, but he's not capable of being Gio's dad, but he still loves Gio and he still loves his family. He just was not. And so, like you said, they all just like make peace with each other and just move on. And it's not a point of contention anymore or bitterness or resentment. They just like, this is what our family looks like. And that's going to be okay.
I
I think
was
it's great.
nervous when Felipe showed up there because I was like, oh my God, she looks just like her mom.
Yep.
Like,
And I was
here we
just,
go.
yes. And I was expecting him to be such an asshole about it. And he was really great.
Yes, it was very, but it was like, he was like, do I know you?
And she's like,
At
no.
first. And she's like, what? No, I'm just a doppelganger.
I'm from London.
Well, also, Vivian was from London too. So,
yeah.
So there's that as well. That's too much of a coincidence. I mean, come on. How many... She looks exactly like Vivian and has a British accent. No.
Forget about it. Forget about it. Another thing that things that I normally hate, this book just like hitting all the right notes on it. You know how I feel about nicknames. I mostly don't like them. I loved the nickname.
The Little Spoon?
Little Spoon. Because it's
Little
like,
Spoon.
It
How do you pronounce it in Italian?
I have a
Because
reference
he
quote
says
for
it.
this. Yes, I have a
Oh,
reference quote.
yay.
Cucciaino, he says. What does that mean? He strokes his thumb along the underside of my breast. Little spoon. How do you say How do you say big spoon? Grande cucciaino. I smile. It sounds better in Italian. Everything does.
Yes.
But I love it because like it happened organically and it's something specific to just them. Like it's so cute and it's Italian, so swoon. And then
And it's
like
also
later,
not cringy though.
and
It's
it's
like
not
sweet.
cringy, but so many nicknames are, and that's why I generally hate them. But it was so cute.
Calm down, violence.
And then like every once in a while through the book he calls her that, like, oh, don't go cucciaino. Also their first kiss.
Oh
Swoon.
yeah.
He went for the re-return. That is so hot every time.
Oh, every time.
Every time,
that's happened to me like once in my life.
Yeah.
I swear to God, it's happened to me one time.
Oh,
the best.
it's so hot. Like he's walking her home, and it kind of has turned into a date, and there's like some tension there, and so they're like, "Well, how do we end this?" And she's like, "I don't know. Well, good night." And he's like, "Okay, good night." And he starts walking away, and then he stops, and he turns around, and he's like, "No," and he just runs straight forward, like towards her, like face in her hands, and just lays one on her. Oh.
Ugh, so good.
Every
I have a
time.
reference quote for that made me feel so warm. Page 140. This is on in one of those moments, like the kissy moments. By my reckoning, everyone gets a handful of movie-worthy moments in their lives. Some people would probably pick out their wedding day or the birth of their child for their show. But for most of us, it's the unexpected moments life occasionally gifts, our ways that make for the best memories. This is one of my movie moments. And again, that's like kind of going back to the rom-coms, but it's not beating it to death.
Yes, this is the thing. It's like all the tropes are
Yes.
there, but they all work, and it's all like, oh, give me
It's
more.
perfect.
It's perfect.
Perfect.
Perfect. No notes.
It puts you right there. It's so hard for me to just feel completely enveloped by what I'm reading. There's just usually so much that takes me out of my read.
Yeah.
But there's just something about the way that she paints the world. Like, she did a great job, the good and the bad of it.
And those small intimate moments. So, when it comes to Iris's relationship with Adam, there were a couple of times throughout the book that I wished for flashbacks with Adam. I mean, she references things, but you don't ever get like a scene like from the past of her and Adam, or like memories or whatever. But then
She's very vague about the
it's
abuse.
very vague. So at first I was like, I kind of want to see some flashbacks, but then I started to feel like it was actually a very effective writing strategy, because she's telling you enough for you to get the gist, but then also leaving it up to your imagination how bad it was for Iris without you also having to witness the scene. So kind of like all these books we've written or we've read recently where it just gets really dark and violent. So like this is a dark situation, but we know about it, but we, as a reader, we don't have to go through it because Iris has already gone through it. So there's a reference quote for page 222. Iris comes across a girl in an alley, and her boyfriend is getting shitty with her, borderline abusive. And she gives a quick rundown to this girl, like after she like scares off the guy. Um, and it's just such a quick way to relay so much information without her having to like write scenes with her and Adam. She says, "My ex took everything from me. For the last year we were together, I didn't have a cell phone or a bank card or a door key. He dismantled my entire life, made me doubt myself, and I blamed myself for the way he treated me. He called me his little mouse because I spent my days and my nights scurrying around the place trying not to do or say the wrong thing, desperate not to make him angry." And it just says so much with so little, but we don't ever have to like read those really dark moments.
Iris's trauma and her PTSD type thoughts about her relationship with Adam was a part of the story, but it wasn't a focal point to her every thought, which is so realistic to me. It's such a great way that she wrote it to bring up trauma and how it sneaks its way into the crevices of your
Yes.
life. But it doesn't have to be this jarring, violent flashback every time it happens. It's because that's not what it's like in real life. You know, in real life, it
Right?
sneaks up on you. And
Yes.
it almost jars you from just the thought of the fact that you even have that memory.
Yeah,
You know,
because it's like
the
knee jerk.
echoes, yeah, the echoes of trauma are much quieter and consistent. Uh, and you never really know when that stress is going to pop up from it. And she did such a great balance of bringing that to light, but not overdoing it. And it
Yes.
felt
Yes.
so genuine.
Yes.
And it made you really fall in love with Iris.
Yes. And it just made it so relatable, and it just made it even more you understood what it took for her to get out of it too, to not have anyone, and to just literally she says later towards the end that when she's talking to this girl in the alley, that she basically waited for him to be passed out drunk and like packed what she could carry and left him and escaped on Christmas Day.
And by Valentine's, she's in New York. When she went to the deli where Meg Ryan had her scene in When Harry Met Sally.
Yeah, Katz's Deli.
Yes, the famous dining scene.
I'll have what she's having.
I'll have what she's having. She just happens to start thinking about the place that she was in when she met Adam, and why she started that relationship and how things got away from her and how it all happened so fast. And she's bringing to light her state of mind when she was making those choices. And that ended up putting her in a situation where she went through something hard and unhealthy, and how unintentional that was.
Yes, yeah.
She's kind of reminiscing about how she doesn't want to ever be in that place again. Now that she is aware what loneliness can do to you and how it can make you feel. On page 104, a year ago, I felt hopeless, trapped in a controlling relationship, going further back again. I was floundering around in the murky jaws of grief. Adam found me there and reached out his hand, and I clung on because someone else felt better than no one. I didn't realize how wrong I was until I was in way over my head and couldn't see a clear way out.
Yeah. Yep. And that right there just sums it up so perfectly, because that's how most of those types of relationships starts. Like, you don't just meet someone like, "Wow, you're a total asshole. I'll be with you." You know? Like, it's always like you get, or there's a reason that you cling on or feel like you need something like a life preserver, and she thought that that was Adam, and it turned out to just be a very different thing, and how those people, those abusive type people, seek that out and like pick people who are in those vulnerable moments to hijack their lives in a really manipulative way.
Or if they just stumble upon you too.
Yeah. Yes,
they're
yeah.
not always looking. It's like, oh, well, this is gonna work for me. I can do this here.
Yeah. I love the Schitt's Creek reference during that whole scene, like, and she's like telling off this girl's boyfriend, and he's like, "Shut up, bitch," and she's like, "Eat glass," and
There were
and
so
then
many references to stuff that I know you love.
I love it. I love the eat glass, and she tells the girl to tell him that, and then but she also says how she discovered Schitt's Creek not long after arriving in New York. Um, the beloved Rose family felt like a safe gang to hang out with until I was strong enough to face the world again. Sometimes I'd leave it on low all night in the background just so I'd see familiar faces if I woke up in a cold sweat. I also loved when the first time that Iris tries to break it off with Geo, and she's like, like, I don't feel like this is a good idea anymore. Page 227. He goes to her house. He shows up at her house to bring her back her gelato maker, because she had brought her small gelato maker to the shop so that they could make small batches and not in their like big industrial one. He looks at me, hands shoved deep in his pockets, shoulders lifted high around his ears. "Look, you can tell me I'm wrong here if you want, Iris, but I don't think that you meant the things that you said this morning." And then later on, he says, "Don't end this," he says, his eyes urgent on mine. "If you don't want to be more, I understand, but I don't want to lose what we have." And then they start it back up again. So I like that he just is like honest with her about how he feels about it, instead of just like
that she wasn't like, no. Like,
yeah,
it was
exactly.
so realistic, because like in
yeah.
real life you would cave right away.
100%. Like it,
Yeah.
and so many rom-coms recently now, it just like creates this like extra layer of unnecessary drama. It like, "No, I can't." She's like, "Yeah, you should probably get out of those pants."
Oh my gosh, were there these moments for you also when you were reading this book where you were just clawing at your body because of the suspense of all of these lies piling up, and you realize that everything's going to start coming to life? And like, she gave Geo the note and like broke up with him, and like disappears and just shuts her phone off and starts sleeping in a storage shed because she's
Felipe
too
gives her the
afraid.
key to the storage unit that he has because
She's too afraid to
face him.
to face him or to be anywhere near where her ex might be able to find her.
Oh, yeah, because that's another thing is that
Yeah.
Adam starts, like, he finds her number and starts
He's
texting her
harassing
again.
her.
He's starting to
Yeah.
harass her. And she had agreed to sing with Bella at her school thing, and someone put it on YouTube, and he found out where she was. So she started, like, freaking out about that. And then later, once Santo is back and he knows who she is, he basically tells Iris that she needs to just cut and run. Like,
Well,
there's
not
no
that she basically tells her that you don't have a place here. Like,
Yeah.
you need to leave.
It's too complicated, and we can't live with a lie like this, and I'm not willing to, like, sacrifice our family dynamic for this, so, like, just hurt him quick and leave. So, like, and then there's a moment where she's like, "No, like, this is about us and our lives now," but she's like, "I don't wanna ruin this family just
Yeah.
because I want to be with Gio." So she's, like, doing that thing, and instead of talking to him in person, she writes him, like, the Dear John letter, and then leaves her house and goes and hides out. But oh my god, I loved that scene so
Oh, yeah,
much.
because he figured out
He found
his
her.
dad, his biological dad was like, okay, well, she's staying in this storage shed.
And I cannot tell you how much I loved this scene. Reference quote for that, page 327. "I don't believe this," he mutters, his eyes running all over the unit, taking in my temporary home. "This stops right now. Do you hear me?"
Yeah. Nice.
Love it. And then she's like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry, so sorry." And he's like, "No, get your stuff. Like, I mean it, Iris. Get your stuff. Is this yours? This? This?" And he's like, "There's a cab outside. You're gonna get in it. It's gonna take you back to the noodle house where you're going to unpack your stuff and sleep in your own bed like a grown-up. Do you hear me? You'll have a fridge and running water and you'll be safe." Like,
Yeah.
so hot. And then he
also that he emotionally couldn't handle the idea of her sleeping there.
Like,
Like,
and he even
flipped
says,
out.
like, and he was like, do you not get that, like," he says, "You never have to run from me," he says, his voice raw and ragged. "Do you get that? I am so fucking mad at you, I can't think straight, but I would never hurt a hair on your stupid, stubborn, beautiful head."
I don't
And
think,
then,
but I don't, the thing I don't understand about that is that Gio knows about what's going on with Adam. He's not concerned about it. He's like, you're going to be safe there. Like, well, but part of the reason that she's staying in the shed is not just because of Gio, it's because of what's going on with Adam and that he's threatened to come to New York and knows where she is.
right.
That's also a part of it too. And he kind of,
I think he didn't realize that.
no, I don't think, well, and that's one thing too about these characters. They're so genuine because of all these things that Gio doesn't actually know. He thinks that she's there because of him, probably. Completely.
Right. Well,
because
and
of
his
him.
first thought too is like the way that Bella was compromised, not that Iris was compromised. Because Adam reached out to Bella, his daughter, to get Iris's information, posing as like an old high school friend or whatever. But I just love that he was like, if this thing is over between us, then we say goodbye properly, like adults. Like, thank you. Loved everything about that. I also thought that it was really unfair and selfish of Santo to ask Iris to leave and hurt Gio in that way. Like, I know that it compromises him and his reputation, but like,
he's an elderly man that wants to protect his family. He's not thinking about that clearly, and he's recently had a stroke.
No, I know, but like, so like, I do understand where he's coming from, but it's also like, he also
I think that he
acknowledged
realizes that though, because he
Well,
tells
obviously
everybody.
he did, yeah, because he did tell everyone. The way that they all showed up at the end, because at the very end, like, Adam shows up at her house, but it's on the day that Gio is supposed to go and they're gonna have their final conversation, and Iris is fully intending on leaving and saying goodbye to Gio at this point. So, like, she knows that Gio's gonna be to her house any minute, so when the door knocks, she's expecting Gio, but it's Adam. He finds her. And then she's like, "Oh no, like Gio's gonna be here soon." But then it's not even Gio that shows up first. It's Maria and Sophia, Gio's mom and sister. And it's like, in a big fat Greek way, his entire family shows up at her house. And they all, like, gang up, and, like, Bobby and Robin are just getting back from their vacation. Oh my god.
It was just so great.
It
And
was
also,
so
I
great.
really loved, too, how it came full circle. The fact that she was not honest with Giovanni about the recipe actually was good and ended in the right way. She was able
Yes.
to give the recipe that was written on the napkin back to Santo, who wrote it
Yeah.
back in the
Yeah.
80s.
Yeah.
And she was able to fulfill her promise to her mother and help the Bellotti family. And she didn't have to break her promise to her mom.
Yeah.
They said, well, she didn't tell everybody, but she gave Santo the opportunity to decide if he wanted to tell them.
Yeah.
Because that secret also would have hurt him as well. So it was
Yes.
so beautiful
Yes.
the way that it happened, because the dishonesty was for the greater good, and it happened in the right way because she was patient.
Yes, and also why I wouldn't ever call this, like, a miscommunication trope, because she purposely held those things back outside of her own interests and desires for the sake of the Bellotti family. And then in even a fuller circle moment, when it all happens and everybody, like, shows up and they're, like, accepting her back into the family, Gio gives her the napkin back and was like, "Maria said that she wants you to have this." So it's like them also saying, like, only a Bellotti family member has access to the recipe at one time, and you're a Bellotti now, basically, and gives it back. The way that they all just, like, rallied around her when and they just, like, kicked his ass, and, like, Gio, like,
Oh, yeah,
punched him in the
right? Yeah.
face, and they have, like, that showdown, and he's like, she's like, "These people have taken me in as their family." He's like, "Whatever, you dumb bitch, like, you don't have any family," and everybody's like, and Santo being the first one to step in and be like, "She's my family," and then everybody was like, "And she's
Oh,
my
yeah.
family, and mine." It was like, "Oh, Captain, my Captain."
And I'm Spartacus.
It was just so
I'm Spartacus.
it was so beautiful, and I loved when Bobby found out that it was Adam, because, like, he shows up and everybody's like, "Who is that?" Um, page 345.
Because he'd been talking so much shit about how he would kick Adam's ass. He
Yes.
was talking shit about that the whole book.
The whole book,
And I
'cause
was like, oh my
Bob
god, there's Bobby.
Yeah,
Well,
'cause
let's see, do
Bobby
you live
is
up to what
the
you were saying?
Yes, 'cause he's the only person that, Iris confided to about Adam.
Yes.
So that's, uh
And he's always been like, if he, man, I wish he would show his face so I could kick him up and down the street.
Yes. I, so,
And then he
page
did show up and he did kick him up
Yes,
and down
he
the
did.
street.
Yes, and it was, like, the best way ever. So, uh, page 345, he goes, "I'm Adam Bronson. If I knew you were coming, I'd have baked a cake." And then later, Bobby uh, he laughs that hideous, forced, jovial laugh that makes me shudder, and Bobby shakes his head, muttering, "Oh, I don't fucking think so." And he hurls his fur hat on the floor and launches himself bodily at
His
Adam.
fur hat. Is that what you just said?
Yeah. And you know what it
Of course
do you know
he's
what
wearing a fur hat.
Yeah, he's just this cute little gay guy. And you know what the first thing I thought in my head was that scene from Crazy Stupid Love when David Lindhagen shows up and everybody's like, "David Lindhagen?" Right? Like, and everybody's just like, because everybody knows who David Lindhagen is. They're like, oh, it's on. Like, here we fucking go. And you know what's really, really cute is I thought that and I wrote it down. And then after the book was over, she actually referenced that movie in her Q&A at the back of the book. And I was like, I bet maybe there's some inspiration there.
I also like that her relationship with his family had its ups and downs too. Like,
Yes.
they had arguments, they
Mhm.
had differences of opinions. a lot of different kinds of conversations.
Headbutting.
Right, but there's this moment in the book where Iris comes to the gelateria?
Gelateria.
Gelateria. Iris comes to the gelateria. Sounds like diarrhea. Did I say it wrong? Gelateria.
That's it.
Iris goes to the gelateria, and Bella, Giovanni's daughter, is there. And this is the first time that she's ever had an interaction with her, and she's practicing on the piano. There's a piano in the gelateria.
Just say gelato shop. Just say gelato shop from now on.
In the Bilotti shop. You know, Iris is musically inclined, just like her mother Vivian, and Bella's having a difficult time with this piano piece, and she has some kind of a test coming up, a recital kind of thing, to pass on to the next level of her practicing. And Iris kind of steps in because they ask her, "Oh, well, you should help her with her piano." And she kind of steps in, and they're having a good time playing. And Gio comes in and is like freaked. I don't know. It just like triggered him in some way.
Yeah,
probably
he got a bit triggered
due to his wife being gone, and that's his daughter, and this is another woman. And I don't know. He flipped out for a second. He was like, "All right, that's enough. Like, stop playing the piano, guys. Stop." Like, he just freaked out. And it freaked Iris out because of her relationship with Adam. You know, she's got a little bit of PTSD from that mental abuse from Adam, and it really freaked her out.
Yeah.
And she left, and she's thinking about that, and she's thinking about how she was romanticizing the family of the Bilottis in her mind, which is, I think, something that we all often do. Like, you're thinking
without meaning to.
Yeah, you think about the idea of something, and sometimes you don't realize that you're really thinking about real people. This is on page 100. It's just that he's the first person outside of the very tasty noodle house that I've allowed myself to get to know in New York. And I guess I haven't taken the time to see him or anyone else at Bilotti's as whole people with their own complex emotions. I've defined them by who they are to me and what they mean to my mother's story. And yes, yesterday brought home to me the fact that they're people in their own rights, with their own stories and their own baggage. They are not the Von Trapp family, all singing and dancing. They're a real family. And while I think that makes them even better, it also means I need to take a step back.
Yes. I love that inner reflection.
So, like, she's recognizing, too, that she's been kind of playing a part in a way, because she just enjoys being with this family so much.
Yeah.
And enjoys being with Gio so much that she is kind of romanticizing the idea that this can go on forever.
Right. In this way, because it's like, and also her acknowledging, like, if it ever were to continue, she would have to come clean about everything. And yeah.
But she understands that too. She's not just doing it because it feels so good she can't stop. Like, she's thinking about her actions.
Well, right. Well, and then at that point, or soon after, is that when, like, that's when she kind of breaks things off with you, and he goes back and he's like, "No, let's not end this. Like, you and I both know that you actually don't mean that." And then they continue on for a while longer. Also, tell me, and obviously it had to happen this way because the book is happening this way, but I did think a little bit that the Vivian Santo backstory wasn't as big of a deal as he's making it. Like, it's this big secret. Like, I mean, technically he was with Maria, but they were like super early, like only barely a few weeks into dating. And
I mean, it's the principle of the thing. You know, you built this family and this life around this person. You don't want them to know that you basically fell in love with someone while you were starting to date them.
I mean, yes, I know, but I feel like it wasn't quite as dire as, I mean, maybe that's just me. But, in that full circle roundabout way, though, it's really good that he did, because if he hadn't have given the recipe to Vivian, they would never have gotten it.
No.
Ever. Like, it really did come full circle.
It's
Like, they would have been
fate.
royally
It's
screwed.
kismet.
It's
Fate.
kismet. Because
And everything came, that's what I meant. Everything came full circle.
Yes. And I love, too, because it's so fantastical, but also strangely plausible because of the connections with her mother and their family, and the way that she happens upon the gelateria at the right time, the right place.
I loved that Santo and Vivian both, for their entire lives, loved each other as much as they did when they met.
Yeah.
They just knew that they couldn't be together and moved on from that, but that feeling was still there.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
just because things don't work out the way that you expect or the way you want them to, or they go in a completely different direction, you can still love and appreciate those moments that you had when you were young and you were still dreaming big.
Well, and he had no hard feelings towards her, because there was that
Yeah.
scene when we're in Vivian's POV, and Santo has asked her to say, and she's like, no, and he was like, okay, well, I'll be here. And then she kind of has that moment of like, this might be the only chance that I have at love. And she's like, you know what? No, fine. Like, I'll stay with you. Let's do this. And he was like, no, you need to go, because you'll always wonder. And
Yeah.
This is your dream and you shouldn't give it up for me. Iris brought her mother's ashes to New York to spread them there, because that's where her mom felt her heart was. And as she's about to leave New York, her and this street singer have developed a rapport throughout the book. And Iris has a moment with her in the park where she sings for her because she's sick. The street performer is sick, and she goes to spread her mother's ashes and makes a request for a Joni Mitchell song, River. It was just it was just a really touching scene. I cried again. Shocker. But it was just the way that she even describes the song. And I actually put it on YouTube, like, right when she said it, and so I was kinda listening to that song while I was reading the scene. I was like, "God damn, Josie, way to set a fucking scene straight to your heartstrings." So she says on page 334, "Do you know River?" I say. "Joni Mitchell? Of course," she says, like it's a no-brainer. "It was one of my mother's favorites. She used to sing it at the end of late-night sets in smoky clubs. The melancholy Christmas lyrics feel as if they were written for today. The minor chord treatment of the opening bars turning Jingle Bells from a lilt to a lament." And I put this song on. I was like, wow, that is the perfect way to describe that. Like, she's just so good at putting into words the things, all the things.
Yes. Yeah.
Like,
it's very musical. Just the way that she writes.
I did wish a little bit for a scene with Santo and Iris specifically. Kind of maybe like apologizing to her, or maybe like for like a second getting a Geo POV for that kind of confession. I thought that would have been cool, but I understand why it's not in there. I just selfishly wanted to see that that conversation. Also loved that the epilogue calls back to the prologue. In the epilogue, they're together and he like rents a truck so that they can go stargazing, and that's something that she says to him in their meet cute at the bookstore.
Oh, I missed that. Really?
So, yeah, so page 7, when they're arguing in the bookshop over, and she's like having her minor meltdown over stuff. She says, page 7, "You take that book, which you probably won't even have time to open tonight because you'll be taking your wife out for a fancy dinner at the top of the Empire State Building, or lying on a checked blanket in the back of a pickup truck looking for a shooting stars, or I don't know, some other equally trite Valentine's shite." And that is exactly what Geo does for her the following Valentine's Day, is to take the truck, put a checked blanket down, and drive her out to see shooting stars. I thought that was very
that makes
sweet.
that so much more romantic.
I know.
I love that.
Geo's the perfect man.
Dude, also, I feel like I really need to see Moonstruck.
Me too. I've never actually seen it. My mom and I were actually planning on having a movie night and watching it.
We gotta add it to our Nicolas Cage repertoire.
Get in my bed. The only other note that I have left was that I also did wish a little bit for a callback to their meet cute in the bookstore, because I was really curious on what that book's significance was to Geo, because it seemed pretty specific to for him not to be willing to cave and just let Iris have it when she clearly wanted it.
Or maybe he wanted, it was the first day it'd come out, remember?
Right, I know, but I because he seemed to really know the story, so I was like, did he read it to his dying wife? Is that why he knew that book or was a fan of it? But they never just talked about that specific book again, or why he specifically wanted it. But
my only thing is I feel like I couldn't make the gelato.
I couldn't. I looked at the recipe.
I wouldn't be able to make it. It's just so old world kind of cooking. But it made me want to eat gelato, but I can't. There's a recipe at the end of the book for the vanilla gelato from Pilates, and I'm not going to attempt it, but it made me want to buy gelato though.
Oh, on more than one occasion, there's a really cute gelato place just down the road from where I work. And I went in there a couple of times because, especially the first day, that I was listening to this book, I was listening to the audiobook, and I was like, I have been listening about how delicious gelato is for 6 hours. I need to eat some gelato or I'm going to die, I think. So I went into that gelato place and it was so good. Do you want to know something? Confession. What? When we do books, for us, for this, I physically read it, and then every once in a while I'll tandem it with the audiobook if I'm strapped for time. I started with the audiobook, and I loved it so much that I just plowed straight through, and I didn't take any notes, just because I was just enjoying it.
Right, yeah. Sometimes you gotta just let it go.
I read it twice.
Oh, you read it twice.
I read it
so you
twice.
read it, you physically read it, and then you listened to it as well?
I listened to it, plowed all the way through it really, really quickly, and then I sat down with it.
I'm doing that right now with When the Moon Hatched. I've
Are
already
you?
finished.
I know you lap. You're always lapping me.
Well, Tiffany, we've been over this. I'm not lapping you. I
No,
have to read it ahead of time because I've got to make the book trailer.
I've got to
know. What?
Is that why?
No. Well, usually I try to make sure I have it done. That way when I make the book trailer, I know what the fucking book's about. I know what's in it.
No,
Otherwise, I'm just
I always just feel
blank.
Slightly inadequate.
I could try, but I couldn't have made a trailer for Fourth Wing if I had no idea what happens in the book. You wouldn't have any idea what all the pictures are from.
Well, I guess that's true. I feel maybe less inadequate now because I know you have more time than I do, but
yeah, I listened to it and now I'm starting to go back and comb through it. All right. Well, we have come to the end of our book discussion. Winter in New York by Josie Silver.
So good.
And we're going to move on to quotes now. Yay, quotes. Right, I'm going to start us off. Page 4. This is when they're having their meet cute in the bookstore. and he's reading the book, the last copy that she wants. You probably don't want that one. I mean, the book. It's the third in a trilogy. It won't make any sense without having read the other two first. I cast a desperate eye over the bestseller shelf to reach for the latest Lee Child book. Try this instead. Everyone loves Jack Reacher. It's like the movie, you know? The one where Tom Cruise somehow manages to pull off being Reacher, even though he's at least a foot too short for the role.
I love that. Actually, I forgot that I had one last reference quote that I didn't put down here, and it is also on page 4. So 9 quotes.
Ooh.
Also page 4. It was when, they're both going for the book. She says, "You expect this kind of fight for the last glass of fizz at a wedding or the only remaining biscuit at a Monday morning meeting. But we're book people, for God's sakes. We don't behave that way, which must mean that this guy isn't a book person. So maybe there's still a way I can win here."
Okay, page 32. The line is, "That's a bit crap."
Yes. I love that
That's a
British
bit
phrase.
crap.
It's a bit crap.
I love that. That's a bit crap.
I actually say that sometimes. I watch a lot of British shows, you guys. My soul is British, so I actually say that quite a bit. It's a bit crap, yeah. Page 35.
You're American.
My soul and my ancestry
You're
is
American.
I feel it in my fingers. I feel it in my toes.
Feel it in my toes. I love that movie.
So good. Page 35, it's towards the beginning, and she's just meeting Gio for the first time, and they're talking gelato. And he puts his hands around the metal gelato container to help melt it a little bit. She says, "I notice Gio has capable hands, and I look away quickly. I'm a bit weird about men's hands. It's just my thing. Some people go weak for a peachy bum or bulging biceps, but for me, it's all about the strong hands. And shoulders, for that matter." Which I concur. I love some hands. Although, like, forearms is like
I
a weird...
also love hands. I typically like my men to also have hands.
I don't know. My thing is like the hands, but like the forearms. Like when guys like roll their shirts up like this way, that's like halfway, and their forearms are. It's like Marshall when he with like his calves with Lily, and she's like, "Don't pull up those pants and show me your calves." That's me with
I like a
forearms.
man that could at least drag me through a window if the building's on fire.
That's also good.
I need a guy that can at least do that.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have to like throw me over their shoulder and pull like a Spider-Man, but they've got to at least be able to drag me to the window and throw me through it, or
that is a very specific requirement.
If you can figure it out, I think we can work together. How did Belle get the beast on the horse? She's resourceful. Okay. Page 76. He refers to Adam exclusively as the asshole and has made it very clear that should said asshole ever set foot in New York, he'll bust out his inner Liam Neeson and use his very particular set of skills to find him, and well, I don't think he'll kill him exactly, but the intention to protect me is there, and I love him for it. And that was for you.
I loved that.
I know. I noted it because I was like, oh, the very particular set of skills. That's like one of Tiffany's regular lines.
I do use that one a lot. Page 293. Bobby and Robin they're talking with Iris, and Bobby's wearing these like fancy designer label like leather pants, and they're like giving him shit about it. And he says, "Jesus, it's not like I'm going hiking in them," Bobby says. "Talk to me about fashion when you don't buy your clothes at the grocery store. Bacon and a sweater? Who does that?" So cute. Made me laugh.
All right, page 78. Iris is meeting Gio's sisters for the first time. Gio comes through, flanked by Sophia, and then 3 more women follow in quick succession. They form a row behind the counter and smile at me. There is no question that these are the Bellotti sisters. Their similarity is striking and intimidating. "Francesca," says the one on the end. "Elena," says the next one along. "Viola," says the third. "Sophia," Gio's younger sister, bobs a curtsy. For his part, Gio looks testy, his jaw set stiff. "Contrary to what it might look like, we're not auditioning for The Sound of Music," he says. "My sisters were just leaving."
That reminds me of that that part, like right when you were saying it, and I didn't think this when I read it, but as you were like reading it out loud, I was just thinking of that line in Hamilton when all the Schuyler sisters are introducing themselves, like Angelica, Eliza, and Peggy. Oh, okay. Page 165. Gio and Iris are having their first date, and they're snuggling up on the couch watching Moonstruck. Page 165. I'm glad.
You bitch. You bitch. You took my line.
Do you want to do it? I went first last time because I knew you'd. You can. Do you want to take it? You can take it.
No, you take it. You got it. You got it. Go.
Okay. "I'm glad I've seen this film before, because however brilliant it is, I can't take the words in while he's drawing slow circles on my neck with his fingertip, and it's so insanely sexual that I feel as if he's actually drawing circles on my cervix." I'm like, I don't think I've ever heard
Sounds
the word
painful.
cervix. I feel like you had the wrong C word in there, Josie. Like,
how would you draw circles? Like, you would have to use like a scalpel.
Like
that doesn't
get
sound
really high up in there. Like,
you ain't gonna be touching on no cervix. Stop. You have to like it's like you gotta put like your whole hand up there and do a full fist.
Sometimes some women have lower hanging cervixes. Like, I can touch my own cervix.
Gross. Well, hold on, wait, stop. You can, which does that mean that you stuck your hand in there looking for your cervix? How do you fucking know you're touching your cervix?
Well, you can feel
You don't know you're touching your cervix.
Yes, I do.
It's like a ham salad in there. You have no fucking clue what you're touching, okay?
That is
you got no fucking clue.
That's not accurate. That's not accurate.
Unless you're loose, like throwing a hot dog down a hallway, it feels like a ham salad, and you don't know what you're fucking touching.
I'm really good at knowing my body, but also like
you don't know. You don't know. Oh, that's my cervix. Tickle, tickle, tickle. You don't fucking know that.
Yes, Lita. Actually,
you're fired. You're canceled.
You know, did you know that you can sometimes tell where you are in your cycle based on the position of your cervix and if it feels hard or open.
You just be feeling around in there for your cervix. You ain't doing that shit.
My point is that like it doesn't feel good to have your cervix poked at, okay? That's basically what
Is that the point?
Yes, that was the point of all
Tiffany, Tiffany pokes her cervix regularly.
Don't.
It's low hanging.
Don't. Oh my God! Shut up! Shut up! Okay, don't. That's just your sex ed special of the day. But I've never heard the word cervix used as a like, because I would understand like you might as well be drawing circles on my clit, but like your cervix, I feel like that's the wrong C word. But maybe Josie has a cervix thing.
Maybe try it with cunt.
Clitoris.
It's clitoris.
Clitoris.
Clitoris, like a dinosaur.
I was gonna say it sounds more like a dinosaur.
Okay.
This one hit particularly because of the last book we just read. And I was like, thanks for canceling out the last read, Josie. Page 148, Iris is talking to Bobby about Geo. They've just had their first kiss, and she's like, shit, this just got complicated because I really was just gonna peace out. And she was kind of nervous because, you know, she's fresh off of the Adam thing, and she just doesn't feel like she can open up to guys again. Bobby says, not all men are assholes.
Right.
There it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Just say that.
Not all men are assholes.
Not.
They're not.
They're
all,
not. They're
yeah,
people.
There's a lot of them out there, but not all men are assholes. So I really like that.
Page 89. I thought this was interesting. Just a little bit of a dialect change between the United States English and the UK English. Pass me the spring onions, I say, gesturing to the plate at the counter beside Bobby. He frowns, perplexed, and I quickly correct my English to American terminology, scallions.
Nice.
Spring onions, you say?
Spring onions, yeah. My next one's on, I'm going back to page 35 again. Kind of like what we were talking about earlier, the descriptions of just like that feeling that taste can have, like the memory of things, like that nostalgia. So she is tasting the gelato in Bilatti's for the first time, the Bilatti version of gelato. And this is like, is it going to be the same as my mom's recipe? Elevated a little from being scaled up and diminished ever so slightly because it's not freshly made, but the oh so familiar taste throws me back to all my yesterdays. I'm a toddler with dirty hands digging for treasure in a rental house back garden somewhere in the north of England. I'm 11 years old in London, doing my homework at a table, which is one damaged leg propped on the back of a stack of books. I'm 15 in Cardiff, crying over my first broken heart. I'm 20 in Birmingham, celebrating my success at catering college. I'm 29 in London, trying not to show my absolute panic as I listen to my mother telling me of her bleak diagnosis. I am all those versions of myself, accompanied every time by Bilatti's secret recipe, vanilla gelato served in a pink melamine dish.
Such great writing.
But I just like she's like I'm it's like I'm all those versions of myself, just those like flashback moments of, and like you were saying earlier, just how much of a role this gelato played in her life, because during the highs and the lows it was like, hey, we're making gelato about it.
Page 123. I just thought this was beautiful. That's why I noted it, because it's so real, so raw. It's so difficult, this act of balancing my past with my now, trying to do a good thing alongside trying to feel like a good person. I daren't think about my mother too much while I'm at Bilatti's. It brings the past too close to the surface. Because it's wonderful to think about those people you've lost and to remember those memories and the fact that you have those memories, but it can also be very painful, sometimes cripplingly so, enough to where you have to kind of shut down those memories or those emotions, because letting it in too much can keep you from moving forward.
Yeah, I definitely can relate to that a lot lately, especially. I feel like I'm still in that. I lost a really close friend recently, and And it's exactly that. You know, like sometimes I am thinking about her and laughing and, you know, just remembering all those good things. And then sometimes it really hits me hard and I have to just not go there sometimes because it can just kind of suck you under.
Yeah. Well, and I think that we all are dealing with loss. I mean, I don't know many people that haven't lost at least someone, one person that meant a lot to them. Everyone deals with this kind of loss. But one thing about loss is that the acute pain that you feel when it first happens fades over time, becomes more of like an ache instead of a sharp pain. And those feelings that you feel, it's almost like your mind finds a way to cope through it to where you don't remember it as sharply, the pain, as you did when it first happens. And to be able to convey that pain through writing and describe it to where it can resonate with people, I wouldn't even know how to begin to do that. And it's just so beautifully done in this book. Josie
really
Silver, another one of her books that she's written, The Two Lives of Lydia Bird, is about loss as well. And it's more of it's a very large vocal point of that book, not so much of a subplot as like the main plot. And that book helps me through a really difficult time. And it's just so impressive, and it makes you reading her books makes you look different about life, makes you look differently at things. It's just beautiful. I'm in love with it. I'm in love with her writing, and she's got, I think, 2 more books that I haven't read, and I'd like to read them.
Yeah, well,
definitely would.
I'm really glad that you picked this one.
Thank you. Finally, I hit. Yeah.
Finally, the podcast hit. The last couple of, like, the last one was, okay. Page 107. I just loved this so much. Iris is thinking about things and she's starting to panic about her situation with the Bilotis and like what she, because like the lies are piling up and she's very unsure of things, and then she's having that spiral moment of what am I even doing? But then she's going on a walk and she says, I'm still undecided what to do about Bilotis, but after my strung out morning yesterday, I'm cutting myself some slack. I've got a home, friends, a job. Everything I had before I saw that door, I still have. All of the progress I've made since leaving London still shows. And I think that that's such an important thing to acknowledge, is that, like, just because you have a moment of uncertainty doesn't cancel out all the progress you've made or all the work you've done or all the milestones you've achieved because you have a weak moment.
Or even if you just made a mistake.
You know, because it's easy to do that and to spiral. And so I really love this acknowledgement of, like, also, like, I'm not going to lose everything. If this is, even if it goes belly up, like, I still have everything I started out with. Like, that's something to focus on. And I just love that.
Page 147. I nod. Speed earned a regular spot on my mother's movie night list. It didn't strictly fit our rom-com diet. Sandra and Keanu? Off the chemistry scale. And I love Speed. Speed was like, I was not allowed to watch Speed when I was a kid, and I always watched Speed. I always found a way to, like, put it in when my parents were at home, and I loved it. And Keanu Reeves in Speed, he is, like, peak fitness hot. Like, that era, that year, I don't know what he was on, but he is a great actor in that movie, and he is fucking ripped.
Yeah.
In that movie.
Yeah.
He is so hot in that movie, and she's absolutely right. He has the best chemistry with Sandra Bullock. They have the best chemistry.
Do you know what is the most surprising thing? Like, why weren't you allowed to watch it?
Because it's rated R.
That was the only reason?
Well, yeah, and there's like violent stuff that happens, and no, I wasn't allowed to watch Speed.
this is the funny thing that gets me. Like, we watch that movie all the time. It's one of my dad's favorite movies. It's like that movie I was allowed to watch. I wasn't allowed to watch Harry Potter, but I was allowed to watch Speed.
Well, yeah, because Harry Potter's the devil.
It's so funny. Devil. My mom and I recently rewatched Gladiator before we went to see the new one. I hadn't seen it in like over a decade. And I'm sitting here watching it thinking like, and I looked at her and I was like, okay, explain to me how we were allowed to watch this and not Harry Potter. Like there's so
they
much
let you
violence.
Watch Gladiator?
Yes. Like violence was like not a thing, but if there was magic, that is like the thing.
But we
like,
had to
fucking
magic. Beg your mom to let us see the Scorpion King.
No magic, nothing that is supernatural in any way.
Do you remember that? We had to beg her to go see the Scorpion King with The Rock. We wanted to see it so bad.
Literally being at Rosa's house when we were like 10 years old, and I called my mom and I was like, can I watch this movie called Ever After? It's fucking PG, and they said no.
I remember
After is the cleanest movie ever.
You cried when we watched West Side Story because you were so worried that you were going to get in trouble for watching West Side Story. Yeah. I remember that.
Well, we
stopped it's PG. Yeah, we didn't even finish it. We had like a panic moment.
Stupid. Anyway.
For West Side Story.
I feel like this is a good one to end on. It's towards the end. And a lot of the truth has come out about Iris, and she's planning on leaving. And Sophia, Gio's sister, comes to talk to her and tries to convince her to stay in New York. And Iris is just saying, like, no, there's just like too much baggage here. Can't do it. Page 332. Baggage, she says, almost scathing. Jesus, Iris, everyone has baggage. You do, Gio does. You guys have enough baggage between you to fill a goddamn carousel at JFK, but isn't that kind of the point of love? That you help each other carry the bags? Fresh starts are for Hallmark movies, not real life.
Oh, yeah.
Boom.
Boom. Yay!
Yay!
Yay! And now we got to get to the part that I'm dreading, the 1-star reviews.
This was hard for me. This hurt me a bit.
Yeah, I know. I can't wait to be mad at all these people. Okay. 1-star reviews.
1-star reviews.
Let's hear some stats.
I'll put in. Okay, so here's the stats. I'm genuinely shocked that this number is not higher. It has a 3.69 on Goodreads. It has, as of the time that I looked it up, 44,519 ratings. The majority of them being 4 stars, around over 18,000 people. The least, only 1% have 1 star. So out of the 44,519 ratings, only 656 give it 1 star. So It's a very, very tiny percentage.
That's really a small amount then.
Yeah.
That's still a lot of people though.
Yeah. Second place being 3 stars, and then 18% 5 stars.
Hopefully 19% after I'm done.
Erratic Demon says, DNF at 35%. Turns out I cannot care enough about a book based on lying about a secret gelato recipe when it's not even an interesting gelato flavor. It's fucking vanilla gelato.
How boring.
It's fucking vanilla. Like if it were mint chocolate chip, there's a story. Mary says, I'm sorry. I could not finish after reading the phrase, it was so sexual, he might as well have been circling her cervix. Has Josie Silver ever had sex?
Oh, come on, that one line.
Elise Bailey says, all I could think about was a specific guy I dated when I was living in NYC who had a Yankees tattoo. So I guess shout out to him. I hope he's well. That sounds like more of a you problem, Elise. Oh, do you want to hear something funny? Ricky said this the other day. He goes, Sarah said something. He goes, that sounds like an issue, not an ish me.
That's funny.
Yeah, right? Chelsea says, got a quarter of the way through this, and it's a DNF for me. The story was about as vanilla as the stupid gelato they are constantly trying to figure out. What is the hype of this? It felt very unorganized, too. Well, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, why are people hating on vanilla so hard?
Right?
I like
What's
vanilla.
wrong with vanilla?
I bought, you know what? I bought ice cream today, and I bought vanilla.
Vanilla's there's nothing wrong with vanilla.
Vanilla bean is even better.
Right?
I like them little beans.
Even Wyatt, he's 8, and his favorite is vanilla. Anytime they get ice cream, it's like, what flavor do you want? And he's like, vanilla. Don't mess with a good thing. Maddie Hawkins says, blah, this book sucked. DNF, which I rarely do, but I literally couldn't take one more second. Give the man the damn gelato recipe and move on with your life. Unfortunate, because I really like Josie Silver's other books.
Man, you know what this is telling me that so many are saying DNF is that people have no patience.
Right?
You don't have any patience? Like, just have a little patience.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of reading.
Yep.
It ends up being something completely different than you expected, too.
Yeah, some books
Like,
play the
it's
long game.
just-
Like, people aren't patient enough to wait for the slow burn.
No.
Yep.
It ends up being something completely different than you expected, too.
Yeah, some books
Like,
play the
it's
long game.
just-
Like, people aren't patient enough to wait for the slow burn.
No.
Amy says, I'm only giving it a 1 because I was wholly not prepared to cry at least 6 times over this book, LMFAO.
Oh.
You and me both, Amy, but I'm not going to give it 1 star because of that. Tiffany says, not me. Another Tiffany, an imposter. A relationship.
An imposter. J'accuse.
J'accuse. A relationship where one party tells lies after lies from day one is not cute. Also, if you take a shot every time Iris says pink melamine bowl, you can fast track your way to a heavy hangover. Kelster says, but why? That's it.
Oh, that's it?
That's it.
Why?
Why? Because?
Because it's amazing.
Kimberly Harrell says, 2 things. This book was 357 pages of making a mountain out of a molehill. Or multiple mountains out of molehills. My last one. Carmen Cohen says, I thought it was a bad book.
Well said.
So there you have it for 1 stars.
It's almost like laughing at those people for just hating it. Like,
And
how
like
could you even?
he couldn't even explain why he hated it. Like, I thought it was a bad book. Like, but why though? Well, I don't know. A lot of the reviews kind of went on and on and on about how boring it was. And then a lot of people mentioned the whole Iris being a shitty person because of the lies. I'm like, well, then you totally missed the nuance of the whole point of the book.
Yeah. Because, so it just, sometimes it's just not going to resonate. I mean, that's a lot of people to read that book and a very little amount that didn't like it.
Yeah. So now I guess we've come to the part where we get to give our ratings. So I'll give my rating, Lita will give her rating, and then we'll do a group rating and see where we land.
Yay!
I absolutely loved this book. For me, it was the book equivalent of an instant classic like Love Actually or The Holiday. It was a breath of fresh air after a largely disappointing reading year. It was well written. It gave me all the warm, fuzzy feelings. It was very touching and poignant. A little bit of spice and sweet romance to make you feel warm and toasty inside. I laughed, I cried, I was pleasantly surprised. I'm not generally a huge fan of contemporary romance, and this book kind of redeemed that genre for me.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yay.
Like now I'm willing to give other books more chances because of this book. I will definitely be reading more of Josie Silver's books. I really loved her writing style. I loved that Iris and Geo's love story was secondary to Iris's journey of healing in more than one way. It may have been full of every single rom-com trope there is, but it was the right way to do all of them, and I am so here for it. I was so here for it. It managed to give me that new book feeling while also giving me nostalgia while I read it, as if it were an old friend of a book that I've read before.
Aww.
I read it twice just because it was so lovely and I wasn't ready to move on from it. 5 stars.
Yay! 5 stars!
5 stars. This is the first time I've been able to say that.
Yeah.
I feel like our ACOTAR episodes don't count. That's a different thing. But.
Those have been 5 stars.
and I do not give 5 stars out willy nilly. I just loved it. I loved everything. It just made me so happy and just.
That makes me happy that you enjoyed it so much and that it was my recommendation.
It was a really
especially
good one.
Since I didn't know what it was going to be going in. Like, you always want it to live up to what you want it to be, but you never know if it will.
And so. I think we were worried about the Taylor Jenkins Reid effect.
Oh yeah. Like, this was great. What is this?
Loved this book. What is that?
What's happening?
That's a different sidebar.
I have surfing PTSD and I've never been surfing.
Like the seven husbands of Evelyn Hugo, amazing. Malibu Rising, we hated it. Sorry to anyone who likes it. Like, I'm happy for you if you did, but we didn't like it.
All right, my final thoughts and ratings. I didn't really write a whole lot because I feel like how much I love the book probably really came through with all my references. And I mean, it was just a beautiful book. I'm so grateful for Josie Silver. In this book, she brought to life that feeling you get from an old, cozy rom-com film that you've seen 100 times. She is yet to disappoint me, and this book was no exception. I loved this book from beginning to end, loved the way that it made me think about life and love and carving a place for yourself in your own corner of the world. I loved the atmosphere. I loved the characters. I loved the journey. 5 stars.
Yay!
Yay!
I also
so group rating 5 stars.
Group rating 5 stars. This is the first time this has ever happened, and this is our season 1 finale. So what better Christmas miracle could we ask for?
To end the year on a 5-star read.
It's so great. Considering our first read of our book club this year was the 1 star.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, there we have it. That's season 1 finale. That's it. We did
That's
it.
We did it.
January is my pick, and I have chosen When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. I'm
Yay.
really excited to read this one. I've been hearing so much about it, and fun fact, I actually met her, Sarah Parker, when she was here in Salt Lake to do a book signing. So I have in my possession a signed copy, personalized, and took a picture with her. She's such a lovely, lovely, lovely person. I absolutely adored meeting
Well,
her.
aren't
So I
you
am
just a lucky duck?
yeah. She's born in New Zealand and now lives on the Gold Coast. And she has the cutest little accent, and it was just such a lovely time meeting her. And it was so cool hearing her talk about the book. And the whole time I just was wishing that I had read it already so that I could pipe in with my own questions about it. So I'm really excited to read this one.
This is going to be interesting because as of this moment that we're recording this episode, I just finished reading it, and I'm
I
on my
know, you got
second. I'm
ahead.
on the reread.
You got ahead of
Yeah,
me.
well, I mean, I didn't do it on purpose. It's
Oh, I
just
know,
usually
I
I
know.
try to be ahead for
Also,
the ads and
I got
stuff
a signed
that we
copy for
make.
Lita while I was there too, you guys.
Yeah. Sorry. Thought we would have put it in a giveaway. Nope.
No, we're keeping those. I had to stand in line for a very long time to get those books signed. So, super excited about that one.
If you'd like to know where we live,
you can find us at home on our link tree.
Find us at our home.
Where we currently live. You can find us on our website at www.bookmatespodcast.com. And there you can find links to all of our socials. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Goodreads, and YouTube. We have visual versions of all of our episodes on YouTube. You can check us out on all of those things. And if you have thoughts, feelings, opinions, or ratings about any of the books we've covered or are going to cover, and you want to shout out on the podcast, you can email us at bookmatespcast@gmail.com. If you have thoughts, feelings, or ratings on When the Moon Hatched, we would love to hear them. And if you want a shout out on the podcast, we will read that opinion or star rating on the podcast. So,
yeah. Well, that's all. Are you excited about season 2?
I'm so excited about season 2. This is going to be so fun.
Season 2, guys, we've got some cool stuff planned. We're starting up a Patreon next year in the summer. And that Patreon is going to be called Bookmates After Dark. And it's going to be anything on the darker side, dark romance, horror, dark themes, smutty books. That's all going to be on our Patreon, but we're going to release a couple episodes for a little bit of a sneak peek for everybody. And we're starting out in January with Pestilence by Laura Thalassa. And I'm so excited.
That was a really fun one to record.
Oh, yeah. So I think you guys are really going to like it. I love you so much, and we love you, Bookmates.
Love you, Bookmates. I hope you guys had as much fun as we did on this crazy journey, and stay tuned.
Bye.
Bye.
These are their stories.